Alright, moving on. Let's see. This over here is the Dragoons. I think this is a pretty bad move because they're isolated. There's his armies over there, and he takes them off of his horses. I think he must have just pressed the wrong button or something, but when I see that, I immediately charge my hussars, and I'm just trying to take this hill with as little casualties as possible. I throw some British guys around. I quickly move up my lines. Most of my guys are shooting into the ground over here. I run away with my hussars, and his dragoons have already routed. In the meantime, his artillery is taking shots at me. I'm mostly hidden. If you look at it from the perspective of the artillery, you can more or less gather where they can and cannot shoot. Right now, maybe a little fragment of my army is exposed, but for the most part they are not. Anyway, my strategy right now is to sort of divide my army in two. Here's my elite riflemen. They're attacking with seemingly the best position because this is more or less flat terrain here. It's a little bit uphill. And I'm sending this army to sort of attack from the other side. I've been walking them, sort of trying to give them as much stamina support later, but pretty soon I'm going to run them up just so that I coordinate my timing. Here I'm starting to move up into position where his cannons do pose a threat. His dragoons stop routing, but they won't ever be able to see their horses again because I've already captured that area of the map. I think that was his initial intention, is to go get his horses, but he knows that if he goes there he's gonna just die, so he just leaves that unit there and comes back. It'll be useful to him slightly later on, but it's mostly depleted. Anyway, let's speed this up a bit because this is mostly just positioning. I'm trying to have as thin lines, and I'm actually keeping most of my infantry and cavalry behind this hill, so they're not going to get damaged. But my riflemen are going to take a huge beating, which is sad because they're an extremely valuable unit, especially in my army where I don't have that much high quality long range guys. I'm pretty sure I throw two of them away somehow. I make a mistake. I think I try to give them an order just to reposition slightly, and I think they just walk into the enemy fire and rout. But in the meantime, here's the repositioning. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. You can see my flags there. I have cavalry going on behind him. And this is going to be the key to the game. There's basically this part of this hill which is completely ignored by him right here. And I'm going to, throughout the game, I'm going to send my cavalry up here just because any place else they'll get shot before they do anything. Here, these are my light infantry. They're almost routing completely, but they do get in close enough to do damage. And light infantry I sort of think about as a meat shield. It's a very good meat shield, I find, because it's very hard to hit. What else? They're not a bad quality troop. Like, close enough to the when we get in close range, basically these guys are pretty much a match for the Ferguson riflemen. They've already taken a huge amount of damage. Of course, my guys are, there's 4 units of them, but still, I find this to be a very useful strategy instead of having some smaller amount of riflemen. Oh, here my riflemen routed, like I said. It's not really important. I mean, it was at that point in the game, but anyway, the dramatic music continues. Here I'm sending my cavalry on that flank I mentioned earlier. He's starting to focus more of his light infantry, long-range infantry, I mean, on my guys here. But these, like I said, these guys are just meat shield. So I basically pretty sure at this point in the battle I was kind of annoyed because this is a rated game and the guy is clearly playing just to like take this advantage for himself and keep it. And retrospectively, I guess we could have had this really annoying game where I just went to the other side of the map and we both just stared at each other. I don't know that there's any rule that says that I have to attack him here, so that would have been probably pretty boring. But anyway, I do decide to attack, and basically he notices that I'm going around his flank with my cavalry, and he repositions his heavy cavalry to sort of address that issue. Here, because my light infantry is so numerous, it's actually doing significant damage to his black watch, which is very important to him. So he tries to reposition to get in range. I retreat, but this exposes a flank. So this is a Yuan charge. At the same time, simultaneously, I charge his general. I knew that he was prepared for this charge, but I distracted him long enough with this charge to the point where I was able to go in here without his heavy cavalry reacting. Immediately, I know this unit is surrounded, so I'm trying to basically take away his artillery, which is generally what I'm most worried about in battles. In a prolonged battle, artillery is very effective. Artillery is not effective in a short battle because they count as a unit, and if they don't destroy an equal value of troops, it's the same before it gets destroyed. It's basically a handicap, I find. At least that's my theory. I suppose it's useful in that it forces the enemy to attack you. Anyway, here my own artillery just got here from the other side of the map. It was hidden at the beginning of the game, so I don't think he realized that I had any artillery, interestingly enough. Anyway, my 2 units of Uans ran down this hill, and they actually had a pretty huge advantage. They start wavering, but I get them out of the battle fast enough. Here's one of the interesting things about cavalry. A lot of troops, when they go into melee, they will continue to chase after the cavalry unit. So for example here, that effect routed this unit of Ferguson riflemen. This is important because when you're doing an intensively micromanaging, like a battle that involves a lot of micromanagement, basically your opponent's not going to be able to stop all of his units from chasing your cavalry, which is very useful because your cavalry will get away, and this will cause a lot of disorganized movement in his own army. So you see his left flank fell quite afar from this hill, and it's now exposed. I now have an advantage here that I'm going to hopefully exploit. These guys are in very close range to my artillery. This unit is going to rout very soon. It's taken a pretty huge beating already, and it's getting destroyed by my own artillery. His artillery isn't actually destroyed, it's here. He won't be able to reposition it. And I suppose if he got these guys to continue firing, they would have been still useful for him. I would have taken it out with another charge eventually, probably, the way he played. But he doesn't do that, which is nice, because that means I've successfully taken out that unit. Oh, I haven't shown you this, but basically I had a Hussar regiment here that ran around this corner and attacked his other unit of artillery while that was happening. You see, one of the important things with cavalry is they're very weak in a prolonged battle, but if you give orders to attack several places at once, you won't be able to react. This video actually just shows you sort of that effect, because I wasn't able to even show you this charge because it was happening simultaneously as all that was happening. This unit does rout because his heavy cavalry gets involved. My other unit of Hussars also routs, probably unnecessary, because basically he formed a square here and I charged his green jackets. Anyway, I realized that one of the threats is that he's going to charge down here with his heavy cavalry, and I try to stop this by placing stakes here, and then I was going to place stakes here, but he actually charges too quickly for me. I do have a lot of support here that I was hoping would protect my artillery, but you know, the hill advantage is humongous, and this is a decent cavalry unit. So I countercharge. I don't get any volleys on him, at least with these guys. I was trying to play stakes here. And he goes all the way and starts destroying my artillery. And basically this is a very good move for him, because at this point I have the artillery advantage. And he's going to rout. Initially both of my artillery is going to rout, along with a lot of other units. Just the power of this charge is so immense that a lot of my guys rout. I'm going to involve my own line infantry even. I was hoping that I could get away with not involving them. As you see, I mean, his heavy cavalry have taken a significant amount of damage, but he's routed like four of my units, I believe. Yep, almost 5 of my units. One unit of artillery with half depleted is going to remain here. He's charging his dragoons in here. I don't know why. I guess he thought of them as a disposable unit at this point. He's just trying to take out my artillery.